Hello and welcome to another episode of dotdotdoc. I'm Ian. I'm joined by Matt again.
Hello!
Today we're going to be talking about the 2016 documentary Tickled by David Farrier and Dylan Reeve. I thought this was just a pretty insane documentary. I haven't seen a documentary like this since, say, Catfish. You know, it started off as one thing and then just went in like a whole different direction. It was just such a journey to go down, and it doesn't even just stop at the documentary. It goes even further than that. There's like a spin-off like short for it, and then there's loads of stuff that's happened since, but we'll go into that in a little bit. Matt, what did you think?
Yeah, it was definitely one of the strangest documentaries I think I've ever watched. Just like you say, definitely a journey. And I like your comparison there to Catfish in terms of that journey, and like you say, starting off in one thing and then just going just absolutely bonkers. Like, yeah, it was good. When I started watching it, I was really unsure what I was gonna get from this documentary. It was very, very strange. But yeah, just very mysterious, like I guess you could say. Like you kind of feel like a detective like through it. You're trying to work out different things as much as David Farrier is, I suppose. I guess that's kind of how it started for him as well. Like, it started as one thing. He wanted to find out about a tickling competition, and yeah, he went in with that and came out with a whole hell of a lot more. And it caused him quite a bit of trouble as well.
It's just crazy when you think about it. Like, one thing, tickling competition, I do wonder if, I mean, apart from getting paid to do it, can you win? Like, is there like a championship for this? I mean, or is it just those single videos? Because I haven't personally looked into like Jane O'Brien media and all that stuff. I've looked into bits, but I haven't like gone and searched for the tickle videos.
No,
I think I've seen enough in the documentary.
don't really want that on your hard drive, to be fair. Like, it's extremely odd. Like, again, like horses for courses and all that. I'm sure there's plenty of people in the world that enjoy that. But I found even when they showed it, like, it was very, very uncomfortable to watch. Like, just very uncomfortable to watch. Like,
just because it's so strange.
Yeah.
Like, the couple of things I can't get my head around on these videos is they always wearing like Adidas, aren't they? And they're like, it's a big deal about them wearing Adidas. And I know that Adidas is definitely not some kind of sponsor of these videos. Like, it wouldn't make any sense.
Maybe that's something to do with, I don't know, like, because wasn't the ad like didn't the ad for getting participants, didn't it say that they wanted sort of like sporty, burly young men?
Yeah,
So
I think it kind of
guess
adds
that
to the fetish of it all.
yeah, it must be.
Because I looked into it, like the ad call for these like tickling videos and that, and I know that they aim it between like 18 and 24-year-olds, and it's like, and they say men like currently recruiting just men, like when back in like around the time that the documentary has been filmed, and I know that they want you clean shaven.
All right. Oh well, it's me out of a bloody job, isn't it?
That's both of us at the job, I think. And it's just insane to think about it. On the average person was getting 1,500 to just be in this video, and it was people who are genuinely ticklish, which I would say is what everybody I can possibly think of. Like, I mean, not that I've tested this, but
just go up and randomly check if someone's ticklish. Normal thing to do in everyday life.
I was watching an interview with David Farrier, and he did say that there's a small percentage of the population where they actually enjoy tickling. It's not like a kind of, like a disgusted response, because when you get tickled, it's kind of like almost like a squirmish thing, isn't it? It's kind of,
Yeah.
um, it may sound like you're having fun, but you're not. Like, it's kind of like almost, you're trying to get away. That's why you're always tied down or that kind of thing. If there's tickling involved, someone's like got you on the floor tickling you or something like that.
It's very strange. Like, obviously, like, you kind of associate it with like being a kid, I think. Like,
Yeah, it's like a torture thing, isn't it? As a kid, it was a torture thing, wasn't it?
well,
Like
I mean,
in the playground, someone like kind of,
yeah, kind of. But you even remember someone just like, oh, tickle, tickle, like, like, yeah, it's
saying you're, yeah.
I don't think it's seen as that when you're a kid. Like, I think if I ever was tickled when I was a kid, I didn't think, oh my god, I'm being tortured. Like, it's
Nah.
just a weird. It's a weird response. It's like there's, I guess, an involuntary bodily response to it, isn't there? And I can only guess that that's because it's kind of maybe nerve ending based. I mean, I don't know that. Maybe you've looked into that, but that's what I would hazard a guess at.
So I have looked into it because it just sent, like, this whole documentary sent me down like this massive wormhole, like, and I had to look into like loads of different things, and I looked into why do we laugh when we're tickled, and like why, like loads of things, like, so the reason why we laugh when we're tickled, it's almost like a sort of response to, like, say, predators. It's almost like kind of like a primal response. So like it's a submission to like a predator
Right.
or like an aggressor.
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting tickled, a way of getting out of it. You diffuse the situation as like a defense mechanism. You laugh, and it should supposedly diffuses the situation. And the reason why certain areas of your body are more ticklish than other areas is because those are the most vulnerable areas.
Oh,
Um,
right. That
so
makes sense.
so like you get, I don't know if you noticed in the documentary, there's they always seem to get tickled underneath the armpit quite a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and
This is soft tissue, isn't it?
yeah, all of the like soft areas, like, your stomach and stuff is underneath your rib cage.
Yeah.
At the
I
sides,
suppose
it's underneath the rib
it's like
cage.
animals, isn't it? Like,
Mm,
obviously we're all animals, but like
mm,
animals, like they let's say a dog shows its submissive side to you by showing its belly. Like,
yeah,
whereas if it were out in the wild, and that's what the predator goes for. So it's what it would attack first because it's an easy part of the skin to break through and
yeah.
to get, I guess, to the organs and them yummy insides. But yeah, that actually makes a hell of a lot of sense.
Yeah, and so that's why you laugh. It's kind of almost like a submission thing, kind of giving in to your aggressor. Yeah, it's because I know it triggers the fight or flight response in your mind. It's kind of almost,
Yeah. And I suppose with the laughter thing, like you were saying with that, like, it's like, because some people like laugh nervously, don't they?
oh yeah, yeah.
Like, if they're in a particular situation and they're nervous, they'll do a little laugh, but it's not like, you can tell it's like not a genuine laugh. It's just a bit of nervous laughter. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but like, I'm quite a big fan of Alan Partridge, and in, I think, the first series, there's a guy that he meets and like is in the lift with him, and he's just constantly like, and like you see Alan getting so annoyed with him, but I guess that matches up with that as well. It's that kind of,
Yeah.
it's maybe a sign of vulnerability.
Yeah, it's like a submission thing, isn't it? To say like, like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm not, no threat, no threat. Just don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just thought that was really interesting overall. And I also found out a few other things about the doc. So I know that it took 2 years to make from start to finish.
Yeah.
It was originally funded on Kickstarter, and
Yeah, I saw that.
the Kickstarter made out that it was going to be start to finish within, like, you know, the timeline was like something like 6 months. It was from like
Hmm.
July to November, December. That's what how they envisioned it to, you know, to wrap up and, you know, come out. But then obviously so much happens, and it just, you know, end up becoming like massive, like a massive thing. Like and I seen like on a Reddit AMA, like Ask Me Anything, they kind of almost regret using Kickstarter as a as the way to fund it, but they needed the money
Yeah.
to get to the US to film this.
Well, I'm sure I read earlier something like David Farrier, where he worked. It was like a TV place, I think, in New Zealand, maybe TV5 or something like
TV3, I
that. I
think.
might
Yeah,
have
yeah.
it wrong.
I
TV3.
think it is, yeah, pretty.
And I read something like when he initially found the video, it was just going to be like a little sort of 5-minute piece for that channel.
Yeah.
And then obviously it just became so much more.
Yeah, I seen that the people they usually worked with, they're not going to fund them like a couple of grand to go off to the US to film, like, you know, this little bit and stuff. So it becomes so much more.
Yeah.
You know, ever since
It just snowballed, didn't it?
yeah, because
Completely
him
snowballed.
going around like Dylan's to find out, you know, a bit more about the websites and domains and stuff, and it started kind of going down this whole route where they found out who's in charge of these videos, where are these videos, why are they being made, and it just gets
Hmm.
more and more peculiar as it goes on. I understand why they used Kickstarter to fund it, but as I said, like, I think they think that wasn't the best method to fund it, because the problem was when they end up, you know, going to the film festival and they sold the film to, like, say, HBO and, was it, I think, like Magnolia.
Yeah.
The problem is you can't just go, oh, here's your digital copy of the film, like before it's come out in the cinemas and stuff, because I think they might have a problem like it getting leaked on like Pirate Bay or something like that, or, you know, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of problems around it and stuff when it comes to that. So I know that a lot of the Kickstarter, like, you know, Kickstarter funders were like kind of annoyed about how long it took from start to finish and stuff, you know, for them to
Hmm.
get their rewards and whatnot. But I mean, it's expected. You're not guaranteed to get those rewards overall, and I think the film was worth it in the end, for people who did fund it. I mean, like, I would kill to have funded this film.
Well, you got so much more out of it. It's like Pandora's box, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like,
and having a
they,
credit, having your like name, like, you know, attached to saying that you helped fund this. I'd love
yeah.
that. I think that's so cool.
I will say, when I initially like started watching it, once like David was kind of on the path to, you know, seeking out what was really going on here. Like, I did, like, it's the first time I've seen any of David Farrier's work.
Dark
And I
Tourist.
know, like, you've mentioned, yeah, I was going to say, you've mentioned that to me quite a few times, but I've not checked it out yet. But I kind of like that this is, you know, my first kind of foray into his work, because it's, I guess, his kind of big break as well. His first real foray into like documentaries.
Oh no, I think he did. He actually did do one before this. I think it was about the, like, New Zealand national anthem. I haven't seen it myself, but
yeah, but I don't. It obviously wasn't as big a hit, was it?
oh,
This
no,
was
no,
his
yeah,
kind of. This was kind of what made him like around the world, as opposed to just in New Zealand.
yeah, yeah. I suppose. I mean, I'm not too familiar with what else he's done. I know that he was on like a show called Short Poppies. That was to be honest, I've never
Yeah,
seen that. So yeah,
I think he'd done quite a lot in New
yeah.
Zealand. Like, well, you see at the beginning of the documentary, like, he interviewed like Justin Bieber, didn't he? Like a young Justin Bieber,
Yeah.
and he done all kinds of like wacky kind of, like, it was almost Weird Weekends-esque. It felt like Louis Theroux Weird Weekends at points. But yeah, like, one thing, I really wasn't quite too sure of him at first, and I wasn't sure on the documentary style, because it felt to me at first like it was more, it didn't feel, and it isn't a documentary with the subjects like say so involved. Like, the subject hasn't said, yeah, let's make a documentary movie. So it felt very much more so like journalism to start with, and it felt almost like he was hounding people a bit, and I wasn't necessarily very comfortable with that to begin with.
I mean, he is a
Obviously,
journalist, yeah.
yeah, of course, but it's just, again, it's different to a lot of the documentaries I've seen. It's a very different style. So I just wasn't used to it, I guess, and I just wasn't sure about it. Obviously, as the documentary goes on, you're kind of thankful that he did pursue things in that way, because he just opened something up that was just hidden, like completely hidden. And obviously it was, the people involved did not want anyone opening this box. They didn't want anyone involved, which you get from the get-go when he's contacted. Once he contacts them and asks them, you know, like he wants to find out a bit more about them, and they basically write back to him via email with all sorts of homophobic
I think
slurs.
that was on their
And
Facebook page. Like it
oh,
was, yeah, it was
really?
on their Facebook page. And
It
one,
was just brutal, though. They were
it was uncalled for,
just
wasn't it? Yeah, just.
cruel. Yeah, really
But
cruel.
do you reckon this documentary would have even gone down this route, or even like even existed, if it wasn't for being like, you know, that being baited on those comments? Like there's no, those comments kind of, it makes it super mysterious. Like if it's like, sorry, we're not interested or something like that, that would have been fine, right? But to
Yeah, he
look
would have
like,
probably just left it.
to look like they've just researched him, like, and then attacked him, which any company,
It's
it just looks ridiculous. Like, why would you even do that to yourself?
exactly. It's certainly not professional, is
No.
it? It's certainly not professional. And I agree. Like I think if anything lit a fire in him to pursue this more, that was the thing.
Yeah,
It was like, okay, well, there's got to be a reason that they're attacking me in this way. And is it because, you know, maybe no one else has tried to look into this? Maybe they thought, well, who knows? Like, I don't think he really knew at the time. I'm sure he had no idea at the time of this correspondence that it was going to go in the direction that this took him. Like, I guess in a way it was kind of life-changing. Well, it was life-changing, like with all that come from it. And like there's like lawsuits and things involved,
yeah,
like as it gets deeper.
These kind of documentaries don't happen that often. It's like really rare that you'll find these documentaries where it's kind of just a, you know, it's just an evolving thing, like over the course of the documentary, like bit by bit as it's going along. And I think that's why it's so exciting to watch, because you're learning as it's going along as much as they are. So do you reckon that this documentary wouldn't have been made if it wasn't for like them baiting him on Facebook?
Yeah, I like I said before, I really think that lit a fire under him.
Yeah.
Because and it would, like, if someone went, if look, you've got to put yourself in his shoes. Like if you were researching something and just went in quite nicely and politely and asked, you know, if you could kind of just have a little window into their world, and then, you know, they responded to you with just really quite awful personal attacks, that would light a fire under you to go, okay, there's perhaps something more than meets the eye with all this. Like, because you can clearly see that to start with, like, I guess just like us when we watched it and you see the videos, like you're kind of a bit like taken aback by it, because you're like, this is just, most people I would guess don't know that this type of thing even exists. I'm sure there's some that do, you know, there obviously are some that do. Initially, you would just be like, this is so different and so out there. Like, it kind of just sparks the imagination of going, wow, I wonder what this is all about. Like, it's a competition. It's a sporting competition. Like, why have I never heard of this? So that initially would spark your interest, I guess, and just the kind of, I guess, oddness to it. But yeah, I really think if they had have responded with, look, we appreciate your interest, but sadly at this time, they could have come up with any excuse. We have a tournament in blah blah. in this country that we must do. We just don't have time for it right now. Thank you for your time. Bye bye. And I'm sure at that point he would have probably gone, fair dues, is what it is. I was only looking to do a little 5-minute bit anyway. Let's move on to the next thing. So yeah, I think them responding in the way they did kind of made him want to pursue more.
Yeah,
and I think it would most people.
I do think the documentary wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for that initial comment. It's kind of, it's like saying, don't look behind the curtain, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Exactly.
It's like, just, don't go in that door, because it provokes you to go in that door to see what it is, to find out what's going on.
Yeah.
It just,
don't press the red button.
It's it does.
You're gonna press that red button.
Don't. It's just so curious, isn't it? The thing is, I was thinking about the videos. If you was open about it and you said like, hey, I've just done a tickle video, but I got paid 1,500 for it, or I got this brand new car for free out of it, would you think about doing one of these videos?
Who, me personally?
Yeah, you personally.
If I got a free car or £1,500 or dollars.
Or your dollars, or whatever the equivalent is and stuff like that. Because they pretty much they basically.
No. Like personally, like that's a lot of money just to be tickled.
Yeah.
Like, but I don't think I would. It would depend, I guess. Like because would you know what it was like? Like, would you know that you were going to be tied down and have 3 to 4 other lads on you, tickling you in different areas in your body? Like, or would you just think maybe it'd be like, it's a competition, so it's like a line of maybe 5 people sat on chairs and someone has a feather and tickles your foot? Like, that doesn't seem so bad.
No.
And for 1,500, maybe not so bad, but I don't personally think like I would take the bait, really, because I think it almost, like, you kind of get from that as well, like it's like coercion, like they're being coerced into it by money. Like, the whole documentary is kind of a piece on like privilege, really, isn't it? Like, it's these people, when you find out more, with a hell of a lot of money behind them, and they're basically fishing for young lads who are like kind of in the midst of trying to get their big break. So yeah, I kind of look at it as like a very big kind of like it's
like exploitation.
It is exploitation, and it is like I definitely look at the documentary and like it is kind of about privilege as much as it is about anything else.
I just find it like so strange because they put these videos up online and the people in the videos thought they would never see the light of day. And it's only when they started saying, hey, can you take down these videos? That was a problem. And then they started kind of like doxing them, putting their information, register a web address in their name, and then like kind of put up their name, the video of them, their address, their phone numbers, all that kind of stuff.
It's bullying, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's complete bullying.
But what's insane is like you find out in after the documentary and some of the I'll post the links down, in the show notes, but you find out that they've discovered that there was at least 47,000 videos done of this.
That is insane, isn't it?
Which is crazy, because you think like how much money it would have cost for like each particular one. Who knows what the asks were? It was just like a bottomless money pit of they're just throwing these like this money at these videos, and you think, who's buying these videos? Because I really thought it would be some kind of like something a lot more, like a lot more sinister in terms of it was going to be like someone from a different country just kind of, like giving it to some like really, really rich person over there. Like I thought he'd be like kind of the middleman. And I do wonder if it was for him personally, for who it turns out to be, David D'Amato. I do wonder if he ever was watching these videos for himself. Was he just making these videos for someone else? There's a lot of mystery there.
I mean, who knows? Like, because you find out in the documentary, don't you, that it like this isn't kind of the first time it's happened. Like, no, it's
over the course of 20 years. Like this whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. So he's got quite the history with it. So you could look at it that perhaps it was something that obviously it was something he had quite a major interest in, because it wasn't a case of making money, because he had money. Like, you find out the family that he came from, that after his father passed away, he was left a significant amount of money. So he wasn't in any kind of struggle for money. So it wasn't for that reason. So I guess you could kind of put two and two together there.
Yeah, I do wonder, like, if they're making like a fair, like, if they're making loads of money on this, it just seems kind of like such a kind of unique fetish that you think, how is there that much money in this to justify how much they're spending?
Well, it's niche, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's niche. And I suppose from what it looks like, the tactics that these guys used in terms of almost that kind of bully-esque kind of tactics, they could, I suppose, once they've got you, and once you're a kind of quote unquote customer of theirs receiving these videos, then they've got you. And, so they might draw you in with one video, first time buy, low price.
Yeah.
And then once they've got you, it's like, well, I suppose they could put any price on it. And you kind of, with fetishes and things like that, like, people are embarrassed by them, aren't they? They don't want people to know that they're into that. They don't want to be judged. So again, if there's not a lot of places they can get this from, then I suppose if they've got the money to pay for it, then maybe they might be willing to pay any amount.
Yeah.
If these people kind of get their kicks from it, it's, I suppose it's like that with a lot of fetishes, really.
Yeah, I do wonder if because it's going back to the Adidas tracksuits and stuff like that. I know they're wearing it because it's like sporty and stuff, but you find that David D'Amato was like a teacher at he was like a teacher in like a few different schools.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't help but think, like, them having, the reason why they're like clean shaven and the way they're wearing like certain tracksuits and stuff, it's some kind of, do you reckon it's some kind of like almost like pedophilia kind of thing going on as well, because they have to be young, like, 18 to 24-year old like boys.
You could definitely look at it that way. Like, obviously we can't make assumptions really,
No.
when it comes to that, because one, that's not said in the documentary itself. But again, you could quite clearly make that assumption. Yeah, that's quite difficult road to tread, really. I think it would not be difficult to see it that way, I'd say.
So the main turning point of the documentary, I think, is when they discover the files on one of the websites, like, just being wide open. And I know that I think it was in like one of the AMAs from Reddit that they say that the files originally, when they found them, they can open them, and then like they check back a little while later, and then for some reason something changed, and then they could open these files. So I know that they was in like the final part of the documentary stage of, they're wrapping it up, and at this point, and then they found all these files that basically is like, hey, this is all my stuff. And I see that there was like some kind of rumor that it might have been someone who is someone almost incriminating him, like he wronged someone, and they uploaded all these files to like a web server, and it's just very convenient that all of this stuff is on there. I know that the filmmakers had to defend that they didn't hack into any of the computer systems or anything like that. It was just literally publicly on just the server, like literally their webpage.
It does appear quite convenient, like that it came at that time, like perfect timing whilst they were making this documentary. Like, there's quite a few, like, even in the thing that came after, the short on YouTube, like, there's lots of parts within that where I was thinking, man, there's a lot of kind of convenient things that are just falling into place. Like, but again, it could just be luck. Could just plainly be luck. Like, maybe this whole documentary was meant to be Like it was meant to have a light cast on it, all that was going on here. But again, like there's a lot of convenience there, a hell of a lot. But I guess it's just which side of the tracks you're on and what you choose to believe. Like you can either believe the kind of trusted journalist that has, made things in I guess a trustworthy way and has a background of that, or you can believe the guys that have lied and used fake names and have fake names on credit cards and all kind of things like that. So yeah, it's two sides of the track, really. It just depends which side you're on.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy. Like he was using was it Terry Driscoll and obviously Jen O'Brien, like, having credit cards in their names, and that is just insane.
But again, it goes back, like the sheer fact that, like, even once that's found out, like nothing really gets done about it. And it's just like, I'll go back to again when I said, like, I think this documentary is about privilege, like, and the fact that in the United States it appears that if you have a lot of money, you can almost get away with anything.
Yeah, I mean, he does get like some years in jail
for
it, doesn't he? But they never like ever reference any of the tickling stuff on there. They just
no, but like even when they say about the years in jail he got, like they say it seems that he was let off quite easily with it. So again, it's a case of money talks.
Yeah, and especially because they were like preying on people from like areas that were pretty like unwell off and stuff like that.
They obviously had a criteria for their, like, quote unquote victims, didn't they?
Yeah.
Like they were quite intelligent in the way they went after what they went after. And it was obviously more than a one-man job. Like there was more than one person involved in all of this, and perhaps there still is.
One of my favorite parts of the documentary was when they were following David D'Amato's car, and it's like really tense. And they're like, oh, he hides. I know at one point he hides like his like camera in like a coffee cup, and he's like filming with that. And
it's like a sting mission, isn't it?
Yeah,
like a police sting.
And I love because he looks nervous. He like, it's kind of a crazy thing because, this is obviously going to be like the last part of the documentary, and they finally got to see him, and they want to see like what's going to happen from this and stuff. And it's just, I don't know, after all that build up and stuff, and then like seeing him in person, it's weird. Like it was just crazy, wasn't it? Just but not as crazy as the post documentary, the Tickle King, which come out after.
Like I'm so glad that did come out afterwards, because it did give a kind of, like, Tickled, the documentary in itself, like how it ended was kind of like quite abrupt.
It left you wanting more, didn't it? Like it kind of,
yeah, you because like a lot of it, you're kind of on this journey with him, and and you're finding out as he's finding out, like all these kind of secrets and the mysteries just unfolding before your very eyes. And then you get to that end point, and it's just like slap bang done.
Yeah, you got the black background, white text saying like what's happened since and that.
Yeah. But even with that, you're kind of like, okay, but surely there's got to be more. Surely, like this. But
you realize he was too powerful to be at this point. Like that's as good as it could have been. Like he wouldn't have, if it would have ended in him like getting sent to prison, or if it would end up with him just like the whole thing just crumbling down, all that kind of stuff. But it didn't, obviously, and I think that's why it's so important to watch the post short after that. The Tickle King,
100%,
because it has the resolve that you need from the documentary. I feel like you need to have those two as a complete thing.
Yeah, I mean, like I imagine it is on like Tickled. Well, of course it's going to be on like DVD or Blu-ray.
Yeah.
I would very much hope that that was an extra on
Yeah.
the disc, because they do like it's like literally it's the missing piece to the puzzle.
Hmm.
Quite literally, it is that missing piece. Like you've almost got this complete picture in frame, and you're just missing this one final piece to just tie it all together, and that's it right there.
It was just so crazy. The best part of the Tickle King, for me, was when the lights come on in Dylan's like screening, and you find out that David D'Amato is sitting in the audience with like half the people on his team and stuff. It's just insane. Like I would never have like predicted that, even seen that coming. It's just like such a
it reminded me like when we said earlier like about like the convenience. This was a part for me where I was like, you know, if like film festivals or and things like that, where like, you know, you show your film, whether it be a, you know, a short film or some of these like Sundance festivals, like a lot of the time, like you'll show the film or the documentary and you'll have characters from it there to answer questions. And it almost seems so perfect. It was like, it was just, yeah. And I was just blown away. I was like, hang on a second, like he showed up, especially after the end of the original documentary where he clearly does not want to talk. Like he clearly doesn't want to be put on camera, doesn't want to talk, you know, wants to stay hidden. And then he's literally under the spotlight. Like he's literally under the spotlight at this point. Almost too good to be true.
Can you imagine being Dylan at this point and realizing that the whole the subject of the documentary is in the audience, just sitting there saying, "Hey, yeah, carry on with your Q&A." Like, how would you carry on with the Q&A? It'd just be so bizarre just seeing him sat there. Just
I mean, you'd feel like you'd stumbled into a gold mine. Like it was just so perfect. Like,
yeah, but it'd be like almost doing an impression of like Robert De Niro in front of Robert De Niro or something like that. It just seems cringe in that sense.
It would feel
like,
strange, but I guarantee, like if I had made a film like that, and the kind of subject to the film, who throughout the film did not want to have anything to do with it, if the subject then all of a sudden showed up to the place where people can ask questions about the film, I would be ecstatic. Yeah. I would think to myself, like, I remember when I was watching it and they mentioned that David Farrier isn't there. He was in New York at the time. And like, I can imagine like afterwards that Dylan straight away afterwards was right on the phone to David and saying, "You are not going to believe what has just happened."
I think that's the reason why he didn't go to the New York one, right? Because he's thinking, oh, David Farrier's said that he's doing a Q&A after the screening there. I think the Dylan one was kind of like, it wasn't guaranteed to do a Q&A. I think it was a surprise Q&A.
Yeah.
And it just happened to be the same time.
It was just perfect.
Yeah.
Absolutely perfect. And I bet David Farrier like was probably thinking, wow, I can't believe I missed that. Yeah. Like, what an opportunity to yet again be face to face with this character that you've spent so much time investigating and you know, is, I guess, like, to David Farrier and Dylan, like David D'Amato, like he'd become a massive part of their lives. If I was David Farrier, I'd be almost kicking myself that I wasn't there to experience that. But you know how amazing that they got it all on film.
Yeah,
and it did feel like D'Amato like relished in it a slight bit. It almost felt to me like he almost enjoyed a little bit of 15 minutes of fame throughout that. That's what I got from it anyway. As much as he kind of tried to come across that, you know, he didn't enjoy it, or well, he even said, well, there were parts of it that I really did enjoy, like the music and the way it was filmed.
Yeah, the music. The music was it was taken from is it a Shane Carruthers film, Upstream Color? Yeah, you know the guy who done Primer, and yeah, it like they basically used his music from one of his soundtracks and they put it in the film. And then is it Shane like seen the film and was like, yeah, use the music.
Excellent.
That's why the music like so cinematic and stuff, because it is for a film.
Yeah.
Like a not a documentary.
Mm-hmm. But I don't know what you took from that. Like, do you think that? Like, I really think he did kind of enjoy that to a degree. Because when Dylan first kind of announces like David D'Amato, everyone, and people start cheering at first, but then it sort of slowly turns from cheers to boos, which I thought Dylan was really good about by kind of telling the audience, no, don't do that. You know, like we're not here to incriminate and you know we're not here to try and hurt someone's feelings. You know, and I guess Dylan was probably thinking we're extremely lucky to have this opportunity right here. But yeah, I do think D'Amato relished in it a slight bit.
Yeah, I definitely think he enjoyed it. And it's weird his questions outside. So in the little question bit outside, he focused on Dylan being like a married man, like the family man and stuff. But then he's still is like, oh, and David, he's a homosexual or that, and like Dylan corrects him saying he's bi and stuff. But it just seems like why is he so obsessed about that? It's just
he says, doesn't he? Because Dylan obviously he tries to reason with him and says, you know, well, you know, we tend not to judge around here. We don't judge about that kind of thing. You know, like that's kind of like that's going years back. We've moved on from that time in society. And D'Amato says, well, where I come from, I think you'll find it's quite different, which I don't believe it is in New York. I don't think it's that bad in New York, is it? Don't get me wrong. There's homophobia everywhere, the world over, just as much as there is racism and, you know, in anything like that. You know, you're always going to get, unfortunately, pockets of society that are kind of stuck in the past that way. But yeah, like it almost comes across that D'Amato is like kind of just maybe he grew up in a time where that was kind of the norm to look at it that way, and he just never changed with society. He never, you know, maybe he didn't learn about it, or maybe deep down it's again maybe trying to look at it kind of psychologically. Maybe he's kind of going against it in the way he is because maybe he's worried that he might be looked at being gay for enjoying videos of men tickling other men. So maybe it's a defense mechanism for him.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so bizarre, isn't it? Because it's like you think, who is his audience? Who is his audience for these videos, right? And if he's making such a big deal about, you know, someone's orientation, like who's investigating him, it doesn't, like, it's just crazy to think that he's still fixated about that after it must be 2 years after the whole thing's come out, and he's still going on about that. That's insane. I just don't understand if it wasn't for him reacting like that. I don't know if it was him reacting like that or his company reacting like that, but if it wasn't for that, the film wouldn't exist. As far as I could tell, like it would have been like a little short clip about tickling.
Yeah, but I seriously think, like, or at least comes across to me that it's like his homophobia, like there's something more deep to it than meets the eye.
It's crazy. So if you haven't read already, a month after the Tickle King was shown on HBO, I think it was, David D'Amato died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I was genuinely shocked when I read that. Like, was not expecting it to a degree. Like when I first saw about that, like I didn't read any further on. Like that was the first thing I saw, and straight away I was like, "What? Wow, okay, that's crazy." And I kind of thought, he didn't look like the wellest of men. But I kind of guessed that it was probably something heart related, heart attack or cardiac arrest.
Yeah. As far as I can tell, it was a heart. Yeah, it was like heart attack, and I think on his death certificate it said something like it was like a heart attack, like with cardiovascular, and it said something obesity was a reason as well. I mean, you see him sit in the cinema, he's out of breath just
Yeah,
sitting down.
exactly. Like, yeah, I think there's definitely, like, I kind of had a wild guess at that, and then when I read that it was that, I was like, okay, yeah, well, I guess that kind of makes sense. When I first read it, I was like, no way, is this guy dead? Not a chance. And because you just think, like, he's been so
Slippery
yeah,
when it comes to all
he's
this.
been
Yeah.
like, he's like the ultimate hider. Like, he's able to hide behind things, like, and he always kind of has done, or at least it appears he has. So you kind of think, okay, well, Pandora's box has been opened now, and he needs a way out. This is the, for a guy with that kind of money, I'm sure there's ways of making yourself, or at least your name, disappear. So my initial thought was definitely, wow, okay, like going down that conspiracy route. And then I read through that article as well that, like, it was a big, not it was a big conspiracy, but lots of people thought the same. Like, there is no way this guy could have
loads.
died.
People, I think people still think that
Yeah.
as well. But I know that I think it was like a few like Reddit threads and stuff. They had to explain, look, we have verified that he's actually dead. We've known someone who's seen his body dead, but I think it's because, as far as I can tell, there was no funeral or anything like that. So it was all like very hush hush. He kind of just died. I don't think it was even announced in like the obituary, like in like, where he lived.
I guess. Well, we've not mentioned it, but in the documentary, David Farrier gets in contact with David Diamato's last remaining family member.
Oh, his mum.
Yeah,
His mum.
And she wants absolutely nothing to do with him. And it comes out, like, after that he sued her for what she said in the document, or tried to sue her for, I think,
what was it, like
million?
Was it 400 million?
Was it 400?
Was it 40 or yeah? No, I think it might be 40 million.
One or the other. Either way, a hell of a lot of money.
It was still a lot of money.
Yeah, like, that's just crazy.
My favorite thing is when David Farrier, he he says he's back at the tickling again.
Yeah, and she's like, oh no, not again. Like, yeah, so it's obviously been a problem, like, for quite the time. And yeah, like,
just the way he broke it to the mother, just like
back at the tickling again.
He's back at the tickling again, or he's tickling again.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. But yeah, so, like, going back to, like, the reason I brought that up is, like, there being no funeral, then, well, I guess there would be no family that would be going to the funeral, like, and I suppose the only other circle of friends / acquaintances that he had were other people involved with this, but they didn't want to show that he was involved with them, so it all had to be pretty hush hush.
I can see why people think he's faking his own death, or he's faked his own death, because after the Tickle King comes out, and it's really well talks about documentary, like everybody was talking about it when it came out, and that just destroyed his name, and all of the, was it Jane O'Brien media, like, could have brought down all of his company. Everybody's aware of this stuff, and I mean, he's already pretended to be two different people, probably even more than two different people, like, women, and, he said credit cards and people, different people's names and stuff.
So it's quite easy to come to that conclusion, isn't it? Like, yeah,
it's definitely feasible that he could have done that.
But I guess,
so that's what's kind of crazy about it.
I guess you've got to kind of go on what Dylan and David have told us, like, through their interviews since, like, and like, I think I saw either today or yesterday that David Farrier had done a piece on his Twitter about conspiracies and the current situation in the world, and why, like, conspiracy theories at the moment are kind of becoming, like, there's more and more of them constantly. So
it's dangerous.
Yeah,
it's dangerous.
Exactly. So, like, I think because this is his project, he had to put that to bed. Like, if he knew for a fact that this guy had died, and people are, the world over, kind of saying that perhaps he didn't, then for him, like, the right thing to do is to be honest. And that,
Yeah.
I think that comes throughout the whole documentary. And like I said at the beginning, like at first I really wasn't too sure of him as a documentarian, because I thought he was almost like slightly dishonest to begin with, or it felt that way. It felt like he was hounding, like when he meets the guys in the airport, and he's like, well, this is,
and he says there's,
this is an open space, I'm allowed to film here. And it reminds me of them, like some of them like videos you see on YouTube sometimes of, people being pulled over by the cops or whatever, and then they'll get the phone out on them and they're like, well, this is a public space. It's kind of aggressive, and it's just not the style I'm used to. But my respect grew for Farrier as the documentary went on, and I guess for me that was part of the journey as well.
Yeah, because I did it backwards in that sense. Like I had watched Dark Tourist, the whole of Dark Tourist, already before watching this, and I was glad to see more of David Farrier because I loved Dark Tourist. I thought it was excellent.
Yeah.
And as far as I can tell, there's no series 2 of Dark Tourist ever. And as far as there's not going to be a Dark Tourist series 2, as far as I can tell. So that's one of his most asked it's one of the most answered questions constantly. People always ask him that. But because I was used to him. I was used to how he was quite like ballsy when it comes to doing certain things in these in the short documentaries that on the episode, of Dark Tourist. So I was used to this when I seen this, and I thought it was kind of refreshing because it's kind of like some people just let people do the talking and stuff, where he cuts the shit, doesn't he? Just goes straight to the point.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I liked about it.
Yeah, see, like by the end of it, I think I kind of got that about him. But by the start, again, because I'd never seen any of his work before, and it just wasn't the type of style of documentary that I'm used to. Yeah, initially I was like, wow, he's a bit on the aggressive side. But I kind of understand it more now. And if he wasn't that way, then he probably wouldn't be able to get what he got from this. And, he kind of solved quite a lot of things throughout this documentary.
Oh, yeah, him and Dylan.
Yeah.
So a couple of things to end on is, as far as I can tell, from the articles and stuff that's come out since, that Jane O'Brien Media is still running, and it's been run by, I think what's his name? It was Louis Peloso, and he's been putting out the videos. He was the one who inherited all the videos anyway of David D'Amato, and he did say it was like 47,000 videos that were available, which is insane. And he was gonna like sell them in like packs to people, like if they wanted to buy like a whole bunch of them and stuff.
Isn't he doing it in a different way as well though? Like I think I saw something where it said that he's not putting the people in the films, like the lads in the films, like he's not putting their full names on the videos anymore, whereas D'Amato used to.
I suppose that's probably a better way of doing it if you wanted to make a legit thing out of it, a legit business.
Yeah. I think it's almost a way of their kind of almost comes across they're trying to clean it up a little bit.
We also find out that the lawsuit was still going, and you can still more or less be sued
from the grave.
Yeah, from the grave.
Yeah. It was in his last will and testament, wasn't it? That when D'Amato died, these cases were still going on. And I think it was also put into the last will and testament that the executor of the will, if they found anything else that could incriminate the filmmakers, then that can also be pursued. And it from what I read, this was something I read, and it said it kind of just shows you yet again that like money is power. Like I think Farrier said something along the lines in something I read that suing in New Zealand only really, like, people don't sue each other like over things. It's only like it's usually big corporations that do suing like amongst each other. And I guess it was kind of a culture shock going somewhere like in America where like suing culture is a thing and has been for quite a long time.
That reminds me, one thing that I forgot to mention earlier. The lawyer that they use, David D'Amato uses, that they use his address is the same lawyer from Don't Fuck with Cats.
Seriously?
It's the same lawyer.
It's it.
We can't go into details on that because we don't want to like say anything about it, about the documentary. We might do it at some point. So yeah, keep listening to our podcast. You might eventually have Don't Fuck with Cats episode at some point. But yeah, like a bit of a crossover there.
Definitely.
This is way before, obviously.
Yeah.
No, it's after.
Yeah.
The events of that.
Wow, that's an interesting find. Yeah, Don't Fuck with Cats. Like, there's plenty to go in on that. Plenty to go in on that if we do ever do it.
And that's it. I think that's it for today's episode. Thanks so much for listening. If you haven't subscribed already, subscribe if you like this. Give us a rating on Apple Podcasts if you listen to it on that, because that really helps. You don't even have to leave like an actual review. Just like hit the stars and all that stuff.
Let us know what you thought of this documentary. Like, if you found it as kind of like wacky as we did, and if you agree or disagree with us in some of the things we've said, because like it was like I can't reiterate enough. Like, this is definitely one of the strangest documentaries I've ever watched. Such a journey. Like, it's a whirlwind, an absolute whirlwind. But I'd be really interested, and I'm sure Ian would too, in finding out what you guys thought of the documentary.
Absolutely. You can send us an email at dotdotdoc@gmail.com, or you can contact us on any of the socials as well. We're on Twitter at @dotdotdoc_. We're also on Instagram at dotdotdoc. That's pretty much it. Don't bother about Facebook. Can't be asked for Facebook. We're just there for the presence, really.
YouTube.
YouTube. We're on YouTube as well. Just search dotdotdoc. You'll see this episode on there. That's around the same time as this comes out, if you want to watch a still image for like an hour or so. Cool. All right. Thanks for listening. That's all. Until next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Tickle, tickle, tickle.